Clearly, this November's election was one of the biggest stories of the year, but what does it mean for liberty? Republicans are happy, Democrats not so much, but watching the returns come in, I wasn't sure how I felt because I'm neither of those. I was happy that some big government statists like Chris Dodd, Russ Feingold, David Obey, Arlen Specter, Bart Stupak resigned or went down to defeat. Good riddance. I feel freer already. And some of Senator Jim DeMint's Tea Party candidates won. Yippee, the Tea Party's supposed to stand for less government, limited government. That sounds good for freedom. But then Senator DeMint said this on Fox News.
You can't be a fiscal conservative and not be a social conservative.
What? Now I'm not so happy. I don't know what to think. I'm a libertarian. I want limited government. That's my most important issue. So will I get that from the Tea Party and the new divided government? Tucker Carlson says no. Tucker's a Fox News contributor and also the founder of the Daily Caller, a website which has been called an alternative to the Huffington Post. And that's a good thing to have. So, good year, this election for liberty?
I would say mixed bag. The health care bill, now law, has to outweigh almost everything that's happened in the last 15 years, just in its massive expansion of government. But at the same time, it infuriated large segments of the population, so there's a counter movement against big government, so mixed.
But the election doesn't sound mixed. The election brought in a lot of people who hate the health care bill.
Election?
The Tea Party, that's
right.
The solution.
Clearly, those are positive movements, but I don't think they address the vastness of the problem. I mean, the truth is that the government is going broke because of entitlements. I mean, the top 5 expenditures by size, federal expenditures, are Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, defense, and interest on the debt. Not too many Tea Party people were burning their Medicare cards.
And that's what I was getting to. I haven't heard any talk from them about killing those or reducing those biggest programs. In fact, the polling data show the opposite, that some of them say, we want smaller government, but don't touch our Medicare.
I mean, just to be clear, they're a lot closer to the solution than Harry Reid will ever be. I mean, they're, I think, a lot better than the status quo, as we've seen it for the last 2 years. But you're absolutely right. The reason entitlements are a problem is because they're really popular. I mean, things that are unpopular aren't a problem, right? Because they go away. So anybody who tells you that we're going to reduce the size of government dramatically by getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse is lying. Because waste, fraud, and abuse, while offensive, and I'm in favor of getting rid of them, comprise a very small percentage of federal spending. So if you really want to address spending, you have to address middle-class entitlements.
And the military.
And the military.
It's not that libertarians are saying we want to cut the troops short. It's, I hope, that people will say, what's the mission?
That's
Why
right.
do we have 60,000 troops in Europe and 30,000 in Korea, 30,000
That's
in
exactly
Japan?
right. Whenever we're committing American troops into a situation where they could be killed, you should have to justify in very clear language, not in 19 paragraphs, but in a sentence, why you're doing it. And no one has explained what the mission in Afghanistan is, at least in a way that I can understand.
But I don't hear any talk about this in the Tea Party.
I think you will. I hear it. I spent a lot of time around the Tea Party preparatory to the last election, and you hear whispering of it. I mean, you do. You hear people say, well, why are we doing this again? And Ron Paul, by the way, who led kind of a para-Tea Party movement in the last election cycle, in the 2008 cycle, his fans, his acolytes, I think, make up a pretty large percentage of the Tea Party.
Yeah, no question. Ron Paul has been saying this for years.
That's right.
And people who are on his ship will go along with it. What about the social issues? Abortion.
Abortion is a question on which honest libertarians disagree. If you believe that the fetus is a human life, then that human life has the rights that any human life has. And you can't abridge those rights. And so you would vehemently defend the right to life. And that's a consistent libertarian position. A lot of libertarians are big pro-choicers, and a lot of them aren't, including me.
And the pro-choicers are saying we don't think it's a life, and a woman has a right to terminate it as long as it's living inside her. And
that's right. And if you don't believe it's a life,
that.
then it's no more morally significant than an appendectomy, and it doesn't make any sense why you'd restrict it in any way.
And I think we libertarians are this little group, and we all know each other, yet a lot of people don't know that you're one, and you don't self-describe.
Well, I try not to. The one impulse, and I grew up in a libertarian family. I'm from Southern California. I've been around libertarians my whole life, and I love them. They're smarter than average.
What's the Southern California connection?
A lot of libertarians in Southern California because if you keep going west to get away from statists, you wind up at the Pacific Ocean. Unless you can pay for the flight to Hawaii, you remain. There are a lot of them there.
There are none in Oregon.
They're not. I think there are, but they're living in bunkers in the woods. There are a lot of libertarians stockpiling weapons and food in Oregon, I happen to know, as they ought to be. But no, I don't like orthodoxy of any kind in the moment, because I am temperamentally such a libertarian. So the moment someone says, we have to believe this, I raise the middle finger. I can't handle it.
We who revere individual freedom have lots to complain about this year. And in previous years, most every year, government grew faster than inflation. This year, it grew more than ever. Not just in what it spent, we also got 2,000-page bills like Obamacare and the Dodd-Frank financial rules. But there was also good news. For the first time in my lifetime, masses of people pushed back.
You work for us! Just got to stop spending. It's got to be a point to the end of it.
You work for us!
You use our money for what?
The little town of Bell, California, where town managers paid themselves so well, provided the best example.
Shame on you! Shame on you!
Wow, I love that. People really talking back to the politicians. I hope to see more of that. Thomas Jefferson once said, when the government fears the people, there is liberty. Politicians aren't yet fearful enough. They continue to spend much more despite the monster debt they're building up. But again, for the first time in my reporting career, some of them are at least talking about the debt problem and the entitlement time bombs. The Deficit Commission actually made some serious recommendations, like raising the retirement age and dumping special interest breaks like the home mortgage deduction. I only wish they'd promised cutting more, but sadly, they were probably right. People aren't ready to do even what they recommended here. And even the Tea Party protesters aren't ready. 92% said they'd rather have a smaller government providing fewer services. That's good. But when it came to specifics, they wimped out. 62% thought the benefits from Social Security and Medicare are worth the costs. And a Bloomberg poll found most want more drug benefits for Medicare patients. And I never hear them talking about reducing military spending or the role of our military. You can't cut government if you leave the military and Medicare, the biggest programs, intact.